Hello, everybody. On behalf of our founder, Darshawn Kendrick, I welcome everybody to this interview series. I love to interview our Friends of Financial Freedom members and just find out a little bit about their business, a little bit about their financial expertise, and ask them to share their wisdom with us. And so today, I am delighted that we're here with Amber Saunders. And Amber, just tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Thank you for having me first. I love that we both have red nails.
Yes, it's beautiful.
I'm a red girl.
Yeah.
So I make trust fund babies. Essentially, I do business and estate planning, and I help people with, we find out all these strategies to make as much money as we can and be able to live the life that we want. And I try and help people make sure that everything that they earn transitions the way that they want to the next generation so that that can be done the way they want as opposed to whatever the state's plan is for.
Wow, wow, wow. Was your first sentence, I make trust fund babies?
Yes.
All right, dig into that. Tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, because that, I was thinking, I think that's what she said. That is such a great hook, Amber. You know, in networking and marketing, we talk about what's your tagline. And I'm Amber Saunders. I make trust fund babies. I mean, tell me more. I want to know more.
Well, I think that there's a stigma about someone being a trust fund baby, thinking that they're spoiled or thinking that, it's something negative, and it doesn't have to be. When someone has a trust set up, and that means more than likely, if it was funded or if all the assets were put into the trust correctly, then they didn't have to worry about probate court, and that there are a specific set of rules that govern how they're able to receive the funds or what they're supposed to do. So I have clients who set up their trust so that it incentivizes their children to finish school, to start a business, to do certain things. And at certain ages or levels, they'll have access to, okay, well, you've accomplished this. And we made sure that you were able to stand on your own 2 feet. Now you get a little bonus when you turn 30, or you get something when you turn 40. So it doesn't have to be a bad thing. So I think that there should be way more trust fund babies than there are right now. So I'm trying to not make them myself, but help people make them.
Okay. But maybe one day you too will actually make a trust fund baby because you're putting it out there. So I absolutely love that. And so one of the things you said was trust fund babies indicates that they probably didn't go through probate. As many of you who are watching this, y'all will know that Dr. Roz gets information by asking questions. And so, Amber, I'm not questioning you, like, why did you do it that way? But I am sincerely asking, why did you do it that way? And the reason I'm asking that in that regard is because the words they probably didn't go through probate means that both of their parents are dead, or whoever gave them the trust is dead. But then you later followed it up with some things that could happen even if the person giving you the trust is alive. So can you talk about that? Like what can parents do while they're alive to give a trust to their kids or their grandkids, and then what can they do after their death, I guess?
Okay, so they can do it both ways. The trust can be revocable, which means that whoever the person is who made it, if it's me and I have 2 kids, I can make it so that during my life, I can change the terms of it. However, and then at the time that I die, it becomes irrevocable to my children, meaning they can't change any terms that I created. There are some people, I had a client who came in who her parents created an irrevocable trust for her because they received some money and they wanted to make sure she had something and they didn't want to touch it. So they separated it from themselves, had a trustee, all of these things so that that money would be for her during their lifetime. So the mother and the father are still alive, but they set up an irrevocable trust that was separate from them, separate from any assets that they had, and that their daughter could see and use during her lifetime according to the terms that they set forth. Probate court, the purpose really is to preserve your assets for the benefit of your creditors. So creditors are able to make a claim if it registers, once your social security number registers that you passed away. And so they're supposed to be paid by the executor or the administrator of the estate before anything is distributed to any heirs of the person who passed away. And so by setting up a trust, you transfer the assets that you have into that trust at the time that you pass away. It's like you passed away and you were indigent. You didn't have anything. So it doesn't have to go through probate. Whatever's in your name when you die is supposed to go through probate court. So your bank accounts, unless you name a beneficiary. Anything that doesn't have a beneficiary and is just in your name is supposed to go to court. But you can avoid that so that it can just transfer to your family the way that you outline in the trust agreement.
Okay. So if I currently have like own our home without a mortgage, and so I want that to go to our son, then I can today put that in a trust starting today, or I write that when we die, it goes into a trust. How does that work?
So you would create the trust and say how you want him to have it. If you want him to get the house outright, if you want him to rent it, whatever terms, or you can just say he can just have it. So during your lifetime, we would deed the property from your name to the trust name, and you're over the trust and over all of that during your life. So if you want to sell it, you just sign it as trustee of the Dr. Roz Trust, and then you sell it, and then that's it. You can put that money in your bank account, do all those things. But if you die during that time period, because it's in the Dr. Roz Trust and he's the beneficiary, then the trustee has to do whatever you say with it after you die. So they can sell it the next day and give him the money, or do whatever without having to wait for permission from a court. If it's in the will and it says that it goes to him, then the court has to, say that the will is valid. They publish it in the newspaper. They appoint the person who you say, and then they have to give a list of who the creditors are, or if there's anyone who's supposed to be able to lay claim to or get money from whatever the total assets are. So it could be that there's a certain number of assets in the estate, but there are more creditors. So they have to liquidate those things to pay those off unless they can negotiate them down. And whatever would be left over would go to your son, as opposed to beforehand, if it's in the trust, then the trust is private, it's not public record, and it can be transferred according to whatever you say because the trust owns it.
Wow. So like when I hear trust and I hear trust fund baby, I think you must have, in my mind, you have to have at least like a 2 comma an 8-digit portfolio. Right. But what you're talking about could be conceivably much less than that. So what is the least amount of assets? Like for people watching, what is your threshold to say if you're planning to leave X amount of dollars or X amount of value of something to your heirs, then you need a trust? Is it any amount? Is it, $100K, $1 million? What?
I'd say it's not even the amount. It depends on the asset. So anything that, even if you have a will, whatever you have in your 401k, as long as you name a beneficiary, your IRA, if it has beneficiaries, then it doesn't have to go through probate. So it's really whether or not you have an asset that if you don't do anything with it, it's going to have to be dealt with through court. So if you have a home, mortgage or no mortgage, unless the deed has, now I think Georgia, when people buy property and they're married, they automatically will put joint tenants with right of survivorship. So the house wouldn't have to go through probate. If one dies, it 100% goes to the other and vice versa. But if it doesn't say something like that on the deed, then in order to take it out that person's name, you're going to have to get an estate opened up. So if you have a property that could go through probate, then it might do you some good to get a trust to avoid having to have that delay if the person might not be able to pay the mortgage when you're gone, or the taxes, or maintain the property or something like that. So it really depends on what the goal is. Probate is public record. And sometimes I think that part of why I started doing this is because my mother was in court for 4.5 years with my uncle's estate. And the only thing that they had was the house that was in both of their names, and it was supposed to go to her when he passed away. But she had to fly from Atlanta to Massachusetts back and forth, hire lawyers, do all of that just for the house. And it took them that long to just give her permission to sell it.
Wow.
Because he died a little bit before COVID. And then, everything was shut down, so she couldn't do anything. And so she's sitting there maintaining a house that she didn't live in, as she grieved her brother's loss. So it really just depends on, it makes it easier. Even, I think that while a will would have to go through probate, just writing down what your plan is and what you want people to do, because you never know how they'll respond once they lose you, or if it's very difficult and they don't want to deal with it. I'm an only child. I told my mother she better write down a list of whoever she wants at her memorial, everything, because I'm probably going to be under the table. So,
right.
you never know.
Right.
So it just makes it easier. but there's no threshold. It's really about, do you want to tell them what to do? Do you want to give some guidance if you're not there? Do you want to, is probate a big deal? If it's a small estate and it wouldn't be, then you can just change, make sure you have payable on death for your personal bank account. Make sure that your insurance has beneficiaries. Make sure anything that has a beneficiary or that can have a beneficiary has one, and all of those assets will be exempt from probate. You won't have to worry about that. But there are some that might have to go. So you just have to examine the asset.
Gotcha. So are you, Amber, the trustee over all these accounts, or do you appoint trustees, or does the person who wants a trust, they have to have a person in mind, and can it be a relative? Like, how does appointing a trustee work?
It can be anyone who you trust or who you think would be good at managing and distributing. So it could be a cousin, an aunt, an uncle. It could be, if you have an investment account. I saw that one of your other interviews, you interviewed one of my good friends, Amy Getz. And so I'm sure like entities you can have, if you have a company who invests your funds, I know that they might have minimum requirements for investable assets, but a lot of them partner with or have trust departments that can serve as the fiduciary to make the disbursements and do whatever you need. So you can have a corporation, you can have a law firm, you can have a person, you can have anyone do it.
Great. Well, Amber, you are such a delight. Thank you for being a part of Friends of Financial Freedom. As soon as you are watching this, y'all, Amber is going to go in and in that first comment put her contact information. And so if you've got additional questions, then reach out to her. Amber, I invite you and everybody who's watching this to please post in the group, invite others to the group. Let's let this be active. We recently we do our outings, our Friends of Financial Freedom outings. Our next one will be January 26th, and Teresa Hardy is the chair for that. She plans great outings, and it's just fun to network and be together. And so the more active you are in the group, and then when you get to go meet people face to face, and then it just adds to the benefit. So we are delighted you're here, Amber. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays, y'all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.